Don, you want to put on some coffee?
You what?
I said, you want to put on some coffee?
Oh,
Some coffee. Oh, rumor going around that I might fall asleep tonight.
oh, okay, yeah. Just out.
It's not supposed to be from allergies. Is this working?
It fell asleep.
I think it did. There we go. Oh. Okay.
I was trying to help, sorry.
Miriam, who we want to talk about tonight. So how much do you know about Miriam? Huh? There's a lot in, a lot not. And if you go to First Chronicles, it tells us that the sons of Levi were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Kohath were Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. The children of Amram were Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. And the sons of Aaron were Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. There's an interesting thing in that whole section there. Now, there is another Miriam mentioned in chapter 4, who is a descendant of Judah, of the tribe of Judah. And when you do a word search on somebody, of course, you have to sift through, is this the same one or not? Because it pops up with all of them. And believe me, I had to go through several verses to get back to Judah to find out where she's coming from, but I knew it wasn't the same one. But anyway, in this text of this children of Levi, even as it goes a little further down, because after this point it starts going into the sons of Aaron, there's no woman mentioned. She's the only woman in this text of Levi mentioned here, and specified here, because that is a big point. In fact, we'll just go ahead and show, let me ask you something. Let's see, make sure I get this right. Well, we'll just go over here. In Numbers 26, verses 57 through 59, again, in the wilderness, they're numbering. And it says, and these are those who were numbered of the Levites according to their families of Gershon. The family of the Gershonites of Kohath, the family of the Kohathites of Merari, the family of the Merarites. These are the family of the Levites, the family of the Libnites, the family of the Hebonites, the family of the Mathites, the family of the Mushites, and the family of the Kohathites. And Kohath begat Amram. The name of Amram's wife was Jochebed, the daughter of Levi, who was born to Levi in Egypt, and to Amram she bore Aaron, Moses, and their sister Miriam. Now, if you were looking at the kids' corner a couple of weeks ago, it was a question of certainly Moses' lineage, but it was served also of Miriam. Who's Levi?
Sons of Jacob.
One of the sons of Jacob. So not only is she Moses' mother, she's his great-grandmother, or great-aunt, great-great-aunt. She's his father's aunt, or great-aunt.
Yeah, they left somebody out in there though, because that's 430 years you're talking.
Well, no,
Between Levi and Aaron.
You know, the thing of it, it's not 430 years between Levi and Aaron.
So
It was 430 years between Abraham and the coming out. And we don't know whether God counted.
Jacob, from the time that Jacob went to Egypt, God said your people will be in Egypt for 130 years.
No, that's what he told Abraham.
That's what he
told Abraham that the people it'll be 430 years. I'm, here's the thing, and I know a lot of people write a lot of stuff. It's like I got caught off on this today because people are questioning the lineage, the genealogy of Christ, and I got caught off on this today because I got to looking into it, and in it, where some are questioning how many generations were skipped, and 3 or 4 according to Matthew's count, I found 2 names that weren't mentioned. So when I go to the Old Testament, they didn't do that other than in the book of Ezra. Ezra did the 14 generation things. Unless there's something in that context that says it was different, I'm not going to discount it, okay? And if you want something different, that's fine, but I'm not discounting. And because I look at this, and you look at the point, the sons of Levi were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Kohath were Amram. You've only got 1 generation between Amram and Levi.
Well, I'm like Ron, I thought they'd spent 400 plus years in Egypt.
I tell you what, why don't we table that and we'll do some research?
Okay.
Because if you ask me on the top of my head. But it's kind of a point, there were 70 people, and it is amazing how 70 people went into Egypt and how many came out. And how many years, and sometimes, well, here's another thing that we forget. How old was Abraham when Isaac was born?
100.
We'd be surprised.
How old was Isaac when Jacob was born? We went over that last week.
Older.
60. How old was Jacob when Joseph was born?
In at 130.
No, he was 110. He was 130 when Joseph was 130. He was 130 when he stood before Pharaoh, Jacob, when he came to Egypt. My point I'm making is it wasn't that uncommon back then for people to have children late in life. Abraham even had children after Sarah died by another wife. He had 5 sons. So sometimes when we get to this point, we kind of go, okay, well, this must be, this age. We don't know how old Miriam was at the time of leaving. We know that Moses was 80.
We think about the amount of time. How long have we positioned a country?
Yeah, how long has this country been in? 225 years.
Okay, so they were there bumping twice as long. Or at least longer.
We want to, and I understand what you're saying. And
That's
what
a lot of people.
that is a lot of people that can multiply. But when we start talking about generations, sometimes we want to sit there and take our average generation in between generation is 20 years. Most people in this country have their children somewhere between 25 and 35 years of age. But that's not always the case. When I was 22, I dated a girl that her closest brother in age was 40, and she was 20. Larry?
This Miriam was a great aid of food on Moses.
Miriam was Moses' sister.
On Moses,
His mother was Jochebed, and would have been Miriam's mother. Now the scripture's saying she was the daughter of Levi. And her first mentioning is not by name in the scripture. And I put this in there. You got Levi, Kohath, Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. And you got Levi, Jochebed, Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. it could be that Jochebed is younger than Aaron. So she is Moses' older sister. And the way we know she's the older is when the new Pharaoh that raised up that didn't know Joseph died, or started after the Pharaoh that knew Joseph died. And when the new one came up and the children of Israel were getting too big, he started putting them off. I noticed, and a man of the house of Levi went and took his wife, a daughter of Levi. That's another thing there. It doesn't say a daughter of the Levites. Now, I'll give you this. It could be that she was just of the tribe of Levi. But the problem is when you start getting scriptures say Levi's daughter. So the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that she was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Now, the point that making here is, it doesn't name her here. But we're only given 3 children of Amram: Moses, Aaron, Miriam. And we see them later mentioned. And so when we come to that point, we have it. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" And the Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Now, here's an interesting point. Who told Miriam to watch over the child? Nobody. She was concerned about it. She's seen it, and notice, she stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Mama didn't know. She stayed there. We bring this up. This is kind of an act of providence. And that's the way I see it. God's providence that she waited, because she waited and watched, and when it was recognized that it was a child and Pharaoh's daughter, said, what did she do? She went and said, "You want a nurse from the Hebrew children or Hebrew women?" Notice what she didn't do. "I know who the child's mother is." She said, "Did you want me to go get the mother?" Why not?
Well, then the mother could have been punished in violation of the law, what was taking place.
Pharaoh might even do something to the child.
Sure.
You're trying to circumvent the law, and we know who the mother is, you know who did it. Even today, what do we have concerning people that discard a child?
Don't you know Pharaoh's daughter probably was glad in the situation, but it was on her compassion for the child that it went off.
Yeah, it is, and that's the point, because it said when she saw it and it was crying, and when he was crying, that was her first thought. This is one of the Hebrews. Who else would be trying to hide a baby at that time? Not an Egyptian.
Well, correct, right.
Yeah, that's my point. The Hebrews would be trying to hide him, and here he is about 3 months old. So she sent her to go get the nurse, and then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, the child's mother, take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages. So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, because I drew him out of water. Now you know what Moses means. Think about this point. And a little side note here. This took Moses from being at the very bottom of society to the very top. To being a child that was supposed to be killed to Pharaoh's grandson. God put him right where he wanted him to, and he used a little girl to get him there.
He used a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
But it was his plan all along.
It was his plan. He foresaw.
Yeah.
And he knew. This tells us something about Mary. She cared about her brother. She wasn't 4 or 5 years old. She was probably around 10, around that age that she could think about things about what can I do to help my brother. In large families, things like this happen a lot. Little families, not so much. Why do I say that? In large families, especially when their children stair steps, who helped take care of the younger ones, the older ones. I remember I was talking to my oldest sister one time, and we had always seemed to be kind of close growing up. And honestly, I was close in my mid-30s when we were talking, and I said something to her about it, and she goes, well, I took care of you. I'm like, what? She said, when you came home from the hospital, I fed you, I changed your diapers and everything. She's 6 years older than I am. And she said, it was cool. I was the only kid at school that had a really living doll. Yeah. You cried, you ate, you did everything. You know? So, you know, and it changes that, and that might explain some of Miriam's attitude sometimes, and we'll get to that. The Bible speaks of her as being a prophetess. What does it mean to be a prophetess?
Mouthpiece for God.
Pardon?
She was a mouthpiece for God.
A mouthpiece for God. And that's what a prophet literally means, one who speaks for another. It's interesting when you go into the mountain where Moses sees the burning bush and he's complaining, I won't do it. God says, you'll be my prophet and Aaron will be your prophet. Whatever I tell you to speak, you tell Aaron and he'll speak it. Now, this is after the crossing of the Red Sea. It says, and after Moses' song, then Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took the timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dances. And Miriam answered them, sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. What did men do?
Listen and watch, I guess.
Listen and watch. I thought that was interesting today because, you know, we got a lot of people, and I think Miriam's a pretty good example of this, that want to teach women can teach over men, when women can do the same thing as men, and men shouldn't be ashamed to follow women in the church and in religion. But who followed Miriam? The women. Women. Is there anything wrong with women teaching women? Would there be anything wrong with a woman teaching a man about the gospel who knows nothing of the gospel or doesn't know as he should? In private? No. Even in a public setting, so to speak, like in a restaurant or something like that. I would say if they're not married, that's probably where it ought to be, somewhere.
James Burton Kaufman talks in his commentary about the account of Genesis. But he says whenever he was a young man, before he was a Christian, he came to have association with the church. The church at that time was only made up of women. There were no men in the church. Just like this church here had no men in the church. There were men, but they were not Christians. The women were singing, and the women were preaching, and the women were praying. And at that point in time, because there were no men that were qualified to do so.
And David Lipscomb got a letter from a woman in the back hills of Tennessee asking him what to do because a bunch of women in the area had formed a church that were Christians. They were preaching and they were singing and they were teaching. And then some of the husbands started coming along who also were Christians, but they wouldn't lead singing. They wouldn't take the time to preach. They didn't want to wait on the Lord's Supper. And she said, what are we supposed to do? Stop having services? He told them in response, he told her, he says, you women get together and you tell them to get out until they're willing to do their God-given duty. And let us worship pleasing the Lord. And it's kind of a shame when that thing has to happen. But I agree, Don. There's nothing wrong with children being brought up in that atmosphere. Because women like that would most likely teach those young men to do what was right. And that's a thought I've often had. Why do we often have this problem? Partly because of the world, but also because of men who are like the ones Lipscomb was talking about that aren't willing to get up and do what they're doing. You ever notice that God doesn't necessarily teach women he does tell women to teach, the older women to teach the younger women how to take care of wife. But there's not a lot of places where it says, mothers, do this for your child. Why? They tend to do it automatically, it's ingrained. But how many times do you hear men being told, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this? And sometimes,
This one was hard here.
a little hard-headed, a little hard-headed, a little lazy sometimes. Little, if we can leave it to our wife, we probably will. Now, in that aspect of being the older child and being a prophetess, Miriam makes a mistake. Numbers chapter 12, verse 22, but Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he married an Ethiopian woman. So they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? And the Lord heard it. Oh, think about this moment. What's their problem with Moses' wife?
She's Ethiopian.
She's Ethiopian. What does that mean, she's Ethiopian?
Likely black.
Likely a black woman. Something about a race, either way. It had to do with race.
When they told at that time to stay within their tribes.
Well, no. That didn't come about until the law.
What was the question?
Had they not been told at that time to stay within their tribes? until the law.
Moses wrote the law.
Moses wrote the law, so,
Esau,
You had
Wait a
read
minute.
this one.
Huh?
Esau,
Yeah, we don't know what point in time this was.
no, you got, I think when Esau married one of the Gentiles, the only thing that it said, not that he's breaking the law, Rebecca used that as excuse to send Jacob away to keep Esau from killing him. She says, I want him to get a wife for my family. Now, Abraham had done the same thing with Isaac. He got him a wife from his family. Who did Joseph marry? Egyptian.
Well, this reading is pretty clear. They were against him because of a race issue.
Yeah, it's a race issue.
Whatever it is.
It's got nothing to do with tribe or even being an Israelite. Because if you go back to all those 12 men, 12 sons of Jacob, none of them married. None of them sent back home to Laban. Right? In fact, Judah's seed was carried through a daughter-in-law who was a Gentile. So it's strictly a race issue. It's not anything to do with tribe or Israelite nation. So they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? Well, is that statement true? Does that make Miriam just as good as Moses? In fact, the reality of what they're trying to do here is take authority away from Moses. Undermine him.
But now Aaron was Moses' would be Moses' spokesperson, but it was going to come through Moses.
Right.
So Moses, in the big picture, heard from God and directed Aaron.
So he was speaking directly to Aaron, and I think this is when we get to the next part of this, that nothing really happens to Aaron because he's just kind of go along with Mary. But one thing I realized when we talk about Aaron, he was kind of wishy-washy. You know what I mean? He goes along with Moses for everything in the Egypt and everything, but then when Moses is gone and the people and then wants to make the golden calf, what does he do? He does it. And then he tries to make the excuse to Moses, well, I had everybody fill out the gold and cast it in the fire and put the staff cocked out, like it was some kind of miracle.
well, Miriam should have known too, if God had spoken to her, or through her, times before. If he was against it, he would have spoke to her to tell her he was against it.
Yeah. But how many people we see reading the Bible today clearly understand it but still reject it? Because of their own self-centeredness or their own ego, whatever it is. The Lord says, now the man Moses was very humble, more than all the men who were on the face of the earth. King James used meek. What does that mean, to be humble? As God is talking about Moses. How many people do you know that if God appeared to them in a burning bush and says, hey, you're going to lead my people out of Egypt, would say, oh yeah. Huh? What Moses said. I don't want to do it. I'm not your guy. Look, Lord, don't you know there's a bounty on me back in Egypt? I got a death sentence back here. Notice, suddenly the Lord said to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, come out, you three, to the tabernacle meeting. So the three came out. How would you like that? Talk about getting called on the carpet. Then the Lord came down in the pillar of cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both went forward. Then he said, hear now my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. Now notice, how have I spoke to you, Miriam? How have I spoke to you, Moses, Aaron? Either through a dream or a vision or through Moses. But not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. I speak with him face to face, even plainly and not in dark sayings. And he sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? So the anger of the Lord was aroused against them, and he departed. Don't we have some warnings like that in the New Testament? I was thinking about 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 19. Do not receive an accusation against an elder except from 2 or 3 witnesses. What did Paul tell Timothy? Don't listen to everything you hear. And respect those people that are in authority. In fact, he goes on down to verse 22, do not lay hands on anyone hastily, nor share in other people's sins. The Lord had given us an example that he set up a hierarchy at that time, as he set up a hierarchy today. And it's not a reflection on anyone's ability as much as it is just his way he wants things done. I've said before, I think one of the things in Christianity we have to learn is contentment. Be content with what God has gave us.
1 Timothy what?
1 Timothy 5, verse 19. And when the cloud departed from above the tabernacle, suddenly Miriam became leprous, as white as snow. Then Aaron turned toward Miriam, and there she was, a leper. So Aaron said to Moses, O my Lord, please do not lay this sin on us in which we have done foolishly, in which we have sinned. Please do not let her be as one dead, whose flesh is half consumed when she comes out of his mother's womb. So Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, please heal her, O God, I pray. Then the Lord said to Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, would she not be shamed 7 days? Let her be shut out of the camp 7 days, and afterwards she may be received again. So how long was she a leper? 7 days. So Miriam was shut out of the camp 7 days, and the people did not journey till Miriam was brought in again. And afterward, the people moved Hazeroth and camped in the wilderness of Paran. Now, if you knew what happened to Miriam, would you kind of not be hasty in speaking against Moses? I think you would. But it's not long after that some other sons of Kohath, the sons of Kohar, and one of the sons of Kohar and one of the sons of the tribe of Manasseh, the tribe of Dan stood up and spoke against Moses. And the ground opened up to swallow them.
This might suggest that Miriam was the instigator in this situation. I don't know if that.
I think it's pretty sure she was. That's what I said about Aaron being kind of wishy-washy. Miriam just kind of prodded him along, and he went with it.
And Aaron was not punished. Scared to death, but not punished.
Yeah, he didn't get the punishment. So I'm like you, that the whole context points to Miriam as being the instigator.
But Aaron was also had a duty, and that was to carry out the instructions of Moses, and maybe God did want him out of commission. So I don't know how.
Well, and I think it's true in that. And I think the other point of it is, it might be that Aaron didn't need the lesson Miriam needed.
Well, Aaron certainly got him.
Mhm.
as all of us get it when we read it.
Yeah, I mean, when you go back, go to Leviticus 10, when Nahab and Abihu are struck dead, Moses later comes to Aaron and said, why have you and your sons hated the sacrifice? And Aaron kind of understood Moses. He said, now look, you saw what happened from them doing something unclean. And you expect me to go and eat the sacrifice in this nature? Basically, is the paraphrase, and me be struck down as well. What's he saying? I did everything God wanted me to, but I'm not in the right frame of mind to be doing that which would cause me to make the sacrifice unclean. And then I get killed too. And so there's that kind of point, and I think you're right. Miriam was the instigator, and I think the lesson served Aaron well. That he understood. And she kind of sent us along with those. In Numbers chapter 14 is when, after the 12 spies come back, and they're told to go and take the land. And we know 10 of them said, you know what, we can't do this. Now notice, the Lord has said, I have pardoned according to your word, but truly as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord. Because all these men who have seen my glory and the signs which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have put me to the test now these 10 times, and have not heeded my voice, they certainly shall not see the land, of which I swore to their fathers, nor shall any of those who rejected me see it. But my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit in him and has followed me fully, I'll bring him to the land where he went, and his descendants shall inherit it. Now this is God speaking directly to Moses. Later he tells Moses, go and tell the people, and he lists Joshua the son of Nun, and Caleb, and that those two are the only ones of the age of 20 that will go into the land, and that they're going to wander for 4 years. Who'd that include? It included Miriam. Who else did it include?
Aaron and Moses.
Aaron and Moses. I don't think Moses understood that at the time he was saying it. Because why? I can see Aaron. Aaron was part of that Miriam. Rebelling. The text says 10 times that the people of Israel had rebelled, except for Joshua and Caleb. I mean, you know, that's including the part of taking up the golden calf.
Moses wasn't allowed to go in because he struck the rock instead of speaking. That's what God told him.
Well, actually, it was the language he used.
Yeah, that's it.
Shall we command water to come from this rock? And he struck, but it's what he said. And God said, because you failed to give me the glory. So if he said, shall God command water to come from this rock and struck it, it had still been giving God the glory. And, you know, and at that time when God says, you and Aaron will not enter the promised land. Why is that? All those times where we keep reading, Moses told the people, who actually said it? Well, the Lord said it to Moses. Who said it to the people? Aaron spoke it to the people. He was Moses' mouthpiece. So when he was there when God said, you go and command water to come from the rock, Meribah, and then Moses and Aaron both use we, as if we are the ones bringing the water. And it was a lot out of Moses' frustration. That's why he kind of puts it through the book of Deuteronomy, because of you. And I can understand them getting frustrated with them as much as they complain. So none of them. Now, then the children of Israel, the whole congregation came in the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. So it's several years later. Most think it was, by this time, from different events going on in the book of Numbers, that this is probably somewhere in the third decade of their wandering, from the time they left Egypt. And it's interesting, I was reading today that, the children of Israel would keep saying to Moses, that, why have you brought us to this wilderness to die? And when the spies come back and they don't want to go in, they brought that up again and said, let's select a new leader to take us back to Egypt. And when God pronounces that sentence upon them, he says, as you have asked, you will receive. Basically, you've accused me of bringing you here to die in the wilderness, so you're going to die in the wilderness. But Miriam died there and was buried there in the wilderness of Zin. A lot of translations first called it the wilderness of Sinai, and then go wilderness of Sin. Why is it called the wilderness of Sin? Some say, well, it's just Sinai being shortened. What was going on in that wilderness? They kept sinning, all that rebellion and everything. Kind of fitting name, wilderness of sin, because what they do. I don't know if that's why it was called that or not. But here's the deal. We can't think so highly of ourselves that we think we can circumvent what God has said. Should a man who doesn't meet the qualifications of an elder be an elder? Even the physical ones? No. Because what do we do when we start making exceptions? We're sinning. We're going against God's word. We're not following His plan. And he might have been a very capable leader. But let's be honest, how capable is he if he's going to go against what God has said? In fact, what he's done is he's shown why he's not fit to be an elder. Same thing with a deacon or a preacher or anything. And I think that's part of the reason we have this about Miriam and the way things happen. Because you got to remember, it started out with what? Here's that little girl. Not even mentioned by name. And then we hear about her one time after crossing the Red Sea. That's the first time she's mentioned in Scripture by name. The next time she's mentioned, she's basically instigating a revolt. And then she's dead. Doesn't seem like she's that significant in the role other than when she's first mentioned in Egypt. So there's obviously a lesson for God who wants to learn. And when we hear people bringing up things like Galatians chapter 3 and misapplying them, there is neither Jew nor Greek, male nor slave or free, male nor female. to say, well, one person can do everything that any other person can do in the church. It's not the context. The context has to do with inheritance. We'll all receive the same gift. We'll all go to heaven by following the same plan. Remember, verse 4, that baptism was mentioned. But people use that misapplied, just like Miriam said, I'm a prophetess too. Those sons of Korah that died, they weren't happy with what their job was concerning the tabernacle. They wanted to burn incense and be in charge of the sanctuary. They didn't want to have to carry poles and wood and utensils. Moses tried to tell them, your job just as important as those jobs. You might not see it that way, but it is. Sometimes people get the idea about preachers, elders, and deacons, and even teachers, or even women say, well, we can't even help in the Lord's Supper. And how much stuff do women do behind the scenes to keep the church going? Or even the regular members. Who would the elders lead if there were no members? Who would the preacher preach to if everybody was asleep? And that's kind of what happens when everybody starts turning against what God says. So she serves as a warning. In Deuteronomy 24, verse 8 and 9, last time she's mentioned, take heed in an outbreak of leprosy, that you carefully observe and do according to all that the priests, the Levites shall teach you, just as I commanded them. So you shall be careful to do. Remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam on the way when you came out of Egypt. You get leprosy, you better listen to what the priests are telling you. You might want to think about what are you doing to get it. And other than being mentioned in genealogies and First Chronicles, that's it.
But we don't know the destiny of her soul.
No, we don't. We don't. But we do understand this, that if we rebel against God, there's going to be a punishment that follows. The hope was that as her,
Because the last thing we hear about Moses is about rebelling against God and not giving him the glory, and yet he was on the Mount of Transfiguration. So.
yeah, and when he was able to see the promised land, he got more than Aaron or Miriam. He at least went up on the mountain to see it, and there he died. So, yeah, we can't always say because somebody died or this happened to somebody, their soul was lost. That was the point I was trying to make several weeks ago about the flood. We make assumptions there. Something hit me. Let's talk about that. I'll make a point to you on that. But fact on the back, it is a warning. And it's kind of like the Lord even speaking about, remember Lot's wife. Looking back to what she came out of, more concerned with it than where she was going. So, when God gives us a warning, we do good to get the message and hear it. There's something that says I am. I like that song because it said, it basically says I'm in a mess and I need cleaning up, and only God can clean me up. If there's anyone that needs any prayers tonight, come as we stand down and sing.
Gonna stand